plans could see recreational drug users have their passports and driving licences seized with a new three-strike-style deterrent. These proposals are published in a new white paper today entitled Swift, Certain, Tough: New Consequences for Drug Possession. Well, I'm joined now by Jay Jackson, who's head of public affairs at Volteface, an independent research and advocacy organisation that seeks to reduce the harm drugs pose to individuals and society. Welcome to the programme, Jay. I suppose, first of all, is this white paper what you were expecting?
Hi, Tom. Great to be with you. Probably not, no. I mean, so the government published their 10-year drug strategy in December, and it was a bit of a mixed bag. There was a lot of sort of tough on drugs, classic sort of conservative rhetoric. But underneath, there was a reverse to the cutting in funding for drug treatment services that we've seen since 2010 that's been cut by 40%. They reversed that. And there was also some really interesting interventions around harm reduction and stuff like that, that, as we can see in this white paper, doesn't really sit well with that rhetoric. It's a bit confused. And I was saying to somebody earlier, it's almost classic Johnsonism, really. It's cakeism. It's having your cake and eating it in terms of drugs, and having the tough rhetoric, but actually realising that we've had 50 years of policy failure on this and something needed to change.
So this is very, very interesting. The title of this white paper is saying it's getting tough on drugs, and that's the entire way that it's packaged. But actually inside it, this three strikes strategy, does that mean that actually, to some extent, there's an easing up on recreational drug users, treating it more as a health issue with courses rather than a criminal justice issue?
I would say that's pretty much spot on, yeah. Look, we know that criminalisation doesn't work, and what this white paper, we haven't seen the full details yet, but from what I understand, the three-strike system of, doing a drug awareness course, then having a caution, and then eventually being pursued through the civil courts is essentially decriminalising drug possession without saying it. That's the reality of this. And it's really interesting to think about how this is going to affect the Conservative Party leadership contest, because you'd expect that the candidates are going to be asked about this today. And this is a significant change in approach. And, Priti Patel may not have much longer left in the Home Office. She clearly wanted to get this out because she understands that this is the only way that we're actually going to make a dent in terms of taking money and power out of the hands of criminal gangs and reducing the harms that drugs cause to individuals and society.
It is fascinating because in the last Conservative leadership contest in 2019, there was an entire week devoted to the various candidates and their drug-taking in the past. Almost every candidate, I think at that stage, apart from Sajid Javid, admitted to at the very least having smoked weed in the past. We don't seem to have the same focus on drug misuse or indeed policy so far in this debate.
No, that's right. Maybe it's just because we have a much more boring spread of candidates. I don't know. But yes, you're right. Last time we had Rory Stewart admitting to smoking opium. We had cocaine with Michael Gove and Boris Johnson, Jeremy Hunt with his cannabis lassie. But this time, like you say, it hasn't featured. And obviously, look, I think the context is clearly different. But hopefully this will get it on the agenda. And I think, I read a piece for Volteface outlining what the potential dynamics might be in terms of the different leadership candidates. And there are a couple who I think would be more likely to pursue drug policy reform than others. We know that Liz Truss, back in her Liberal Democrat student days, was a free the weed campaigner, and I think Rishi Sunak, with his sort of Cameroon socially liberal tendencies, might be someone who would look at that. Whereas I think someone like Tom Tugendhat, for example, who's spoken a lot in Parliament about the destruction that he saw drugs cause in countries such as Afghanistan, might be less sort of favourable to those reforms. But look, all I can say is I think this is a really great start for drug policy reform. Prisons, criminalisation, we know doesn't work. 15% of people in prison are on drugs. That's how much of a breeding ground for drugs these places are. And over 30% of people in those prisons are there on drug offences. So it's absolutely time for a new approach.
Well, Jay Jackson, thank you so much for setting that out. Sometimes it's really interesting to dive between the difference in rhetoric and actual policy. Really fascinating stuff there. Jay Jackson, Head of Public Affairs at Volteface. Thanks for joining us. Well, now, finally, today...